Hello, my name is David Webb, and this is a video for Dweebovision. I am a Scrabble grandmaster, and in this video I am going to play Scrabble while providing in-game commentary on my moves. Hopefully this will help to improve your game, and be fun to watch. The game has just started, so let's join the action. It's me to go first. This looks a promising rack. I've got the oid ending, and it's reasonably balanced in terms of vowels and consonants. But do I have a bingo? I don't think I do. So I'm looking to leave myself with a decent rack leave. And the question is whether to go for a short word like mo or ohm, or whether to go for a 5-letter word. I think I prefer the 5-letter word because I have so few nice tiles, as in the tiles in the word retains. So even though DIOL is a balanced leave, it's not particularly bingo-y. Now Mooley scores 20 points. DH is not a great leave, so can I do better than this? Well, let me just put this back. Can I put the H, for example, on the double letter square? I don't think Holly Dom is good, which would be a bingo. Well, I don't like the rack leave of DH. They're not synergetic. I'm going to go with the shorter word. This is a better rack leave, and it's harder for my opponent to score off than Mooley. Actually, I'm going to make one slight change to this. I'm going to play homo. I think lid is better. It's more robust against the draw of an I or an O. Well, as it happens, I have drawn only consonants, and I have got two of the high-scoring tiles, the Z and the X, which go well with vowels, but I've only got one. Pix is good. That plays in row I, making high and ox. So this is a pretty unpromising rack, but I should be able to play off one or both of the X and the Z and score well both this go and the following go, and hopefully at the end of 2 goes I'll be in a position to look for a bingo. Okay, all those words are good. Now homo does take a Z at the beginning. My opponent has blocked zip, so do I have a word which ends in Z? No, I don't. So what's available on this board? Oi takes an L after it, so I could have a word beginning Li. Or a word beginning PLI or GLI. Gosh. Well, I'm instantly dealing with a tricky rack. And the problem with this rack is that there are so few words available. I could play zip and hap at J5, but that places the Z in a very dangerous spot. I'm wondering about playing picks across here. rack leave is pretty atrocious, but it's 17 points. It doesn't give too much away, and I think it's better than changing. But am I missing something? This is a really tricky start to the game. Homo did not seem that dangerous a play. Wasn't expecting to struggle with this rack. And it's not hugely improved. The high-scoring tiles, the Z and the X, really benefit from vowels, and yet again I have just the one vowel. I do have les and zomo for 33 points. Rack leave's pretty bad, but the score is good. And this board is not particularly good for my opponent. Row J is a bingo lane, but that's about it. Aroid, I think, takes an S at the end. It takes an L at the beginning. But I can't see how I can take advantage of that. Through an I would have glitz. I don't think glitzed is good, but I'm not 100% sure. Through an O, I could play DZO. Would certainly be nice to split up the duplicate D. Not only is the duplicate D bad, but the DG combination is also unsynergetic. So straight in with some tricky racks. Now I could play Geld at F11 across, leaving DTZ. That's actually quite a good leave. And it sorts out the duplicate D issue and the DG issue. So maybe I should consider playing that elsewhere. In other words, prioritizing resolving the rack over playing the Z for score. And I can play Geld or Gled elsewhere. Right, well, this changes things. I now do have a vowel to play through, and it's a good one. So I could play les at C11 down. The rack lead is pretty atrocious, but look at the score, 51 points. That is good. It doesn't give too much away for my opponent. So despite the rack leave being awful, I think this is the best play. And the rack's got worse, but that's not disastrous. Once a rack goes beyond the point of no return, one can always change one's tiles. I think that may well be what I do here. Looking at the scores, I do have a 35-point lead. So it's not as if I'm changing in the face of a huge deficit. But before changing, I do need to consider if there are any spots on the board. For example, if a vowel were available and I could play G, L and D through it, then it's possible that retaining a rack leave of CDLT and making that move would be better than changing. But as it stands, I think I will be changing, and certainly given that my opponent has changed. Right, I must make sure I press the right button. It's this one. And, well, it's possible that retaining the C, the T or both is better than changing all, but I prefer to change all because I find it difficult to be sure of whether it's good to retain tiles like the C and the T, and by changing more I'm increasing the chances of drawing a blank, which I do know is a good tile. Now this isn't particularly fabulous at all. I've got the W and U combination, but I do have web, which is playable with the single B, and the rack lever bout isn't too bad because the O helps out the U. But I'm not sure there's anywhere that I can play web. This board is really tight. So I'm looking to see if I can play down from the D of aroid. I'm still actually ahead at this point, so it's possible that changing would be a good thing. If I don't change, what's available? No, this is really a really tricky rack to deal with. I'm going to change again. And this time I am going to keep the E. How many T's have been played? Only one. But I think I'll keep the T to avoid being swamped with vowels. Okay, slightly more balanced rack. I won't be changing this time, but I don't think I have a bingo. The D of aroid is not a floater for a bingo because there are only 6 squares underneath it. This is a really tight board. I still have somehow a 12-point lead, but my opponent's on turn, so that will probably go. It is really hard to see any bingo lanes. Aha does not take an S at the end, so row J is no longer a bingo lane. The Q takes out row F as a playable lane. There are 65 tiles in the bag, 7 on my opponent's rack, so really haven't played many tiles at all, yet I'm already down to only 12 minutes on my clock. So I'm going to have to step up the speed of my play, and on a tight board that can be hard because it can be difficult to spot any moves at all. It's easy to speed up once you can see a bunch of words because you can, a bunch of moves, because you can just have a cut-off and choose the best amongst them. Choosing the best amongst a selection of plays is not hard. What is hard is when you're struggling to see any candidate plays at all. Now my opponent's opened up a bingo lane in column 14, but I do not have a 7-letter bingo. Zoa doesn't take anything after it. And if I played something like Tondo in column 14, I'd be opening up column 15. Poi doesn't take anything after it that I've got. Wow, this is truly a tough game. Well, this could be a real horror show of a move because Talk takes an A and an E underneath it, so I'm opening up a double-double and it's only 11 points, so I'm not going to do that. Well, I am wondering about playing down here. Now, this is 16 points, and with a rack leave of tone, this is certainly better than changing. There are no good spots to play here. Well, I think this is safer. 14 points rack leave of NOT. Well, this opens the board up, but It's got to happen at some point. Not good, but I do have 2 vowels. This is a playable rack. I can play veg. As a 3-letter word. And gov is also good. I'm expecting my opponent to play in or around dotted. If he doesn't, veg does play at L10 across. The whole of the top left of the board is completely out of action and likely to stay out of action because there are not many bingos ending in an L, and there's therefore no opportunities in the top left of the board for any other plays which score well. So this could be a dour struggle. But that's good. It's good to have an opportunity to play through different styles of game because you will inevitably face these in real life. Through an R I would have govern. I don't think I can play off 2 G's and a V. But I'd certainly like to play off 2 out of those 3 tiles, with the preference being the G and the V. TOR in column 8 could feature in a 10-letter bingo. Certainly not with the rack I currently have. So this game could well be down to who gets the first bingo. Great, well my opponent hasn't zoomed ahead with that move. And, wow, I think he has actually provided an opportunity for me to play off all of my problem tiles. Pretty sure veg can be played with 2 Gs, and that's 15 points. Blocks the board even more, but I'm in the lead. And that's pretty good. Through an E I would have real tone. Is there a 7 there? This would be enormously high probability, so if there is one there, I certainly would have studied it. And this would be an ideal time to play a bingo on a tight board. There is the L of les as a floater. Well, that's okay, and it opens up a bingo lane in row K. Toro takes a T at the end, so if there is a 7-letter word here, I may be able to play it, but is there one? It'll be a terrible miss if there is one there and I don't see it. Well, I'm not seeing it. Okay. In which case, I'm thinking about playing down from the G of vegged. So I could play agon, and the advantage of this is that it takes out the bingo lane in row K, which forces my opponent to really bingo in column 14, which will open up column 15 for me. 18 points is not bad. The rack leave is not good. It would be much better to play off the L as well. So what about a play which ends on the end of Toro, so a word ending in T? So I could play lent, L-E-A-N-T, or olent. $15 points for lent. I think there's merit in this. It's quite Well, I say quite good playing off a lot of tiles because the blanks are unseen. But this is actually a bingo-y set of tiles, in which case it might be better to play off just a couple. Very tricky. I'm going to play Ogle. I think Rant is quite a nice lead. It certainly goes well with the E of Ogle. And that's not great. I don't think I have a bingo through the E. And I'm only 32 points ahead, so if my opponent bingos through the E, I could be in trouble. I've got the man suffix, and I've got the un prefix. But I can't see a 7, and I can't see an 8. I wonder what my opponent's going to do if he doesn't have a bingo. This is a very hard board for both of us to play on. Now I have got Merva at J6 down, but that retains duplicate N. I'd much rather split them up. I think when there are fewer than 50 tiles in the bag, I'd ordinarily see the tiles that are left at the bottom of the screen. There are 49 unseen, so I think it's when there's 50 unplayed, so maybe after my opponent's next move I'll get to see what's left. I'm looking at that E of Ogle to see if I have a bingo. But I don't think I do. I do have plays through that E. I've got Remnant, but that just scores a tiny amount. But there are very few opportunities on this board to score anything. It's quite a fascinating board. Now, I do have an M for going at F14, so I could play Munt, and that has quite a lot going for it. Okay, well, my opponent did have a great rack, but he only scores 59 points. He has a 27-point lead. Do I play Munt? Trouble with playing Munt is it draws me level, but then my opponent scores well in column 15 and the whole board is completely locked down. Munt would leave ART, which is a good rack leave. Well, I am going to play it. I'm short on time. 23 points. Not great. Well, through an E I would have Tree Lawn, but there's little hope of that happening. Now, the game isn't over. I'm only 4 points behind. Although my opponent's on turn, he is likely to try and play in column 15. Well, I was hoping that he wouldn't score very much, but he has done. And I'm now 50 points behind. And I've only got 6 minutes left on the clock. I need to open this board up. I'm looking at the L of Les. So I could play something like well, but then my opponent could play down from A8. And if I play war at B10 down, I score well, but I'm not opening the board up. Well, what about Terabyte? I'm just looking at score here. Let's see what this scores. Terabyte, 42 points. Well, that brings me to 6 points behind. I have a terrible rack, 6 consonants and only 1 vowel. I've got V, W and K, which are not synergetic. But I'm only 1 point behind. Great, my opponent challenged terabyte. It is good. I wasn't 100% sure on that. So this is going to be really, really close. 32 points. Good score. So where can I play off some tiles? I'm looking at the E and the S of seriate, so I could play... Well, what can I play? I could play whelks. I'm really conscious of the time here. Whelks, 24 points. Just seeing if I'm missing anything really good elsewhere. I don't think I am. And I'm retaining the R, which is useful at D10. Okay. Now, I'm 9 points behind. There's 23 tiles left. It's a very tight board. I suppose column 13 is a good scoring spot. I really might need my opponent to slip up in his scoring. Because at the moment there are just so few opportunities on this board. 11 points, great, that is a little bit of respite. So, what do? I can play Wive at K6 down. 12 points. But it plays off one problem tile and sorts out the duplicate I. I don't have anything to go in front of the W of whelks, which is a shame. Okay. I know the time is going down. Wive does take an S in front. I'm now 8 points behind. I can play var at B10 down. 22 points. Rack leave isn't great. 28 points for my opponent. Okay, PI takes nothing in front of it. That's really blocky. Only got 3 and a bit minutes left. 15 tiles in the bag. VAR is 22. Ooh, 3 N's, 2 U's. I am 14 points behind. But this board is super tight. I guess whelks is the next place one looks at. Well, there's also the E of Y. I can play across from N2. But the trouble with that is that it provides an easy scoring opportunity for my opponent in row O. $14 points behind, 12 tiles in the bag, 7 on my opponent's rack. FE in the top right doesn't take anything in front of it. I still don't have anything to go in front of the W of whelks. That would be an A or an O. In fact, I'm struggling to see where I can play anything, including the E of Wive. Can I really not play there? Cunei doesn't play. Well, should I change? It's a tough decision. That's a good score, good spot by my opponent, or a good play by my opponent rather. 11 tiles left. I've got 3.5 minutes left. I think I'm going to change. There are 2 blanks unseen. Let's see what happens. Well, I don't draw them. I do have a balanced rack, but it's a balanced rack on a dead board. I have the Y for going after ink in the bottom right. Okay, that spot's gone. So, what to do? I'd like to play off the Y and the U and open the board up. Only 7 tiles left. 10 points. Just struggling to see anything. Well, I do have a blank. Residual in row C doesn't quite fit. But the game isn't over. I'm 40 points behind. 5 tiles in the bag. Pretty horrible remaining tiles. Look at that. 4 N's, CFGII, and a U. It's pretty much only the S and the blank which are good. So it's possible I could open the board and bingo. But I have to say that that is unlikely. So I could play div at B8. It may be difficult for my opponent to close down that spot. Well, this has been a really, really tough game. I wonder if I do have a bingo in row C ending AL. Well, not that I can see. So 2 tiles left. What if I play UR here? My opponent's got an N. So he's likely to play in row 3. The U doesn't take an S in front. But this rack leave is really good. Well, the alternative would be to play something like door here, which takes an A in front. I think I prefer UR. Wow. I draw the blank. And I have 1 minute and 21 on the clock. So, do I have a playable bingo in column 3? If I bingo, I win. So, I have fiddles as a 7-letter play, so I do have bingos ending in an S. Fideism is good and mu is good, so I do have a playable bingo right now in column 3. Fideism. Yeah, I do have those tiles. Now if my opponent plays none, for example, gosh, that'll be tough. I need to basically try and generate lots of 7-letter bingos and see if any of them play after my opponent has played. And that's tough with 2 blanks. So I've got fideism and fiddles at the moment. Disfame is good. That could be useful, a word ending in a vowel. So if my opponent plays none, I can play disfame. Great. Okay, well, I'm pretty much on tenterhooks now. I think column 3 is my only spot. I mustn't forget my playable bingo of fideism. The other the other bingo lane is row C, ending in AL. Wow. Finding 9-letter words is hard, and with 2 blanks and an F, it's even harder. So a word ending AL would probably end ERAL, or could end ERAL. I've got the semi-prefix. Well, my opponent has now got just over 2.5 minutes. This is a very tight ending to this game. I will not have much thinking time. It's only 1 minute 20 on my clock. So I think it's going to be one of the bingos I've spotted or curtains. So I'm now looking back for the 7-letter plays. Defines. Finders, friends, redfins. Fidgets. Stifled. Gosh, that's quite a few. Can my opponent block all of them? At the moment, fideism is the only playable bingo that I've seen. Well, this is going to come to an end shortly. My opponent has now got even less time than I have. I've been so focused on my own bingo, I really haven't looked to see if there's anything my opponent can do with his rack apart from playing none. Great. Fideism was my play down here. So I hope I've got this in the right spot. Fide is... see if this scores enough. Fideism and Muse, 68 points. I am 26. This is going to be enough. Fideism and Muse. It may not be the best bingo, but it is a winning bingo, I think. Just wait for my opponent to end the game. Wow. That was quite some game. So, final score, 324 to my opponent, 356 to me, a winning margin of 32 points. Let's see what I missed, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be loads. That was a strange, strange game. I don't like really tight games, or I don't seek them out. Sometimes you just have to play with them, but Homo did not feel like an opening move which would lead to a tight game. Well, there wasn't a bingo here. Homo looks fine. Gizmo for 27. I didn't spot that. That would have played through the Mo of Homo. Well, column 9 rather. But all the other moves were pretty low scoring, so Pix wasn't far off. Les for 51. That was fine. This is where I changed. Yep, changing is better than all of those plays. This is where I changed again, and Dubbo at I11 would certainly have been better than changing, but I didn't spot it, and that's a really nice word. I must remember that for future reference. None of the rest of the moves look particularly great. This is where I think I probably played suboptimally. Tondo at f14 opens up column 15, so not convinced of that. But look at all of those moves, they're all low scoring. So maybe Doted isn't too bad. Vegged, yeah, pretty sure that was best. Great, that's a sigh of relief. That would have been embarrassing to have missed a bingo with this rack, especially if it was a 7. And all of the playable moves were fewer than 20 points. Nice play by my opponent. Munt at f14 is what I considered. Did I play it? Yes, I did. Okay, that looks fine. Terabyte, that looks best. This was tricky. I played Whelks and, well, there are other similar moves. Nothing obviously better. Really don't think I played well here, but look at the options, all very, very low scoring. Only one play for more than 15 points, so in light of that, wide doesn't look too bad. Vahana, well, I didn't know that word, but Var looks okay. But strategically, this isn't necessarily a great move because this is a really tight board and I am behind. And this is where I changed just even lower scoring moves. Unsignal at c5. Well, that might have been worth thinking about, but I didn't spot it. Well, this is where I played something. What did I play? I played YU. Very difficult to compare with what's left there. Yeah, I don't know if that was best. And here I played Again, very difficult to know if that was best. The other options are all low scoring, but at this point I needed a bingo to win. Let's see what my opponent could have done with this move. Could have played Unsignal. That wouldn't have blocked Fideism in column 3, so it's possible that my opponent was unable to prevent me from bingoing. And here, gosh, only Fideism and Densify. Okay, well, I'm delighted to have spotted Fideism and that it was still playable after my opponent's move. So, a long video, but a tremendous game. It was grim, but it came to a thrilling climax. There's quite a few moves towards the end there where I really have no idea if my move was optimal, in which case it probably wasn't, but would require analysis. There are some moves which are just very difficult to assess over the board, and I think some of them featured in this game. So I hope this video was of value to you and you enjoyed watching it. My name is David Webb. This has been a video for Dweebovision.